All right. Well, I'll start off by giving you a little overview of the School of Medicine, and then a little bit of information about the position, ask you a few questions, and then at the very end I'll give you a chance to ask me some questions. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect.
All right. So the School of Medicine is actually a partnership between Texas Christian University and the University of North Texas Health Science Center. So we have a medical school together, which presents its own challenges when you're working with a private university and a public university, but we're making it work. We are about 4 years in from where we stood up as an institution on our own. We have just started our second class of medical students, so they started at the beginning of July. So we had 60 medical students that started last year and then another 60 this year. So we're still relatively small. And for the most part, we intend to stay that way. We'll just be bringing in 60 students a year, so maxing out at 240 students. So I like to tell people from the get-go, we're still new, and we're very much kind of like a startup company.
Right.
We definitely don't have it all figured out yet. We're developing and creating and changing as we go, so there's definitely a need for flexibility in all of the roles that we're filling, because we don't have, that kind of foundation set yet. So we like to say, we're flying the plane while we're building it.
Absolutely. Well, I've never heard of allopathic medicine before. So how does that distinguish between other medical schools?
So allopathic is your general MD. So it's actually, so there's allopathic and there's osteopathic.
Okay.
So allopathic is your MDs.
Right.
Osteopathic is your DOs. So the University of North Texas Health Science Center has a DO medical school, but this will be their MD program.
Awesome.
So, and there's lots of differences between the two, but over time they've molded to be a lot more similar than they are different.
Okay.
I actually came from the Health Science Center side of things, so of course I know the DO side really well as well.
Very good.
So allopathic's just, like I said, what you're used to when you go see an MD. That's the medical training that they've received.
Okay. Now, is the curriculum that you use, I guess it's new in its development, the empathetic scholars?
It is, and it sounds like you've spent maybe a little bit of time on our website. It's definitely, it has to meet the basic standards of what it is to get an MD.
Absolutely.
To graduate with an MD, but we've developed very specific curriculum that incorporates empathetic communication, or compassionate practice is what we call it. So it's that patient-centered care, if you will.
Right.
So it's definitely a different model, and even in the way that we do delivery, we have what's called flipped classrooms. So the students aren't actually coming in for lectures. They're doing their lectures and that type of stuff online, and they actually just come in for experiential events, so where they're hands-on doing things.
So it's more of an adult andragogical type of setting where the adults, the students are basically self-directed.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And we do afford them quite a bit of what we call white space, so it gives them time to study or to do those lectures, where they're not just totally having to be in classroom or whatever that may be. And of course that has changed with the pandemic. That model looks a little bit different.
I think so much has changed with this new setup of the pandemic. It's drives some people crazy and other people love it.
Yeah, well, it becomes really hard to teach medical students certain things when you can't be face-to-face.
Exactly.
We've managed to do it pretty well over the last 6 months, and we're still pretty good with that model for at least another couple of months, but our second-year students will actually be going out into the community, I think, starting next week.
Right.
So we're slowly kind of moving to that more experiential model.
Right. When I was going through my kinesiology classes, we had to take some anatomy and physiology courses, and of course it's kind of like if you're an athlete and you want to learn, technique playing a certain position in football. Now you can watch all kinds of film, and I can watch, my favorite left tackle on offense do his work, but until I actually get out there face to face with somebody, it's kind of hard to know that you're doing the technique correct.
Right.
Because a lot of it's, you have to feel it. You have to be you have to get your butt whipped sometimes, and all the different aspects of being face to face. So yeah,
Absolutely,
so yeah,
absolutely. And we are a community-based model, so we're not affiliated with any specific hospital or healthcare system. So we
right,
rely on all community members. When I say community members, I mean physicians
right,
to take on our students, and then this is a voluntary capacity to give them that experiential piece. So when we're all said and done, we'll have as many as 480 of these physicians, unpaid faculty throughout the community.
right.
So
That'd be awesome.
yeah, we're getting there. We're about halfway there now, but it gets harder and harder to find people to, and of course in the current environment too, to find people to continue to want to bring on our students. But we'll get there.
Right.
We'll get there. So let me tell you a little bit about the position. This will be pretty high level, but instructional designer, obviously designing courses for our medical students. The LMS platform that we use is Canvas.
Right.
So it's working really with our teaching faculty. We have, when we're fully staffed, we'll have 16 full-time basic science faculty, which will be the hard lift part of the kind of course development. But then there's also a lot of part-time faculty who teach courses that'll need to be developed as well for specific specialties and that type of thing. Right. So this role is working very closely with those faculty to get their courses into Canvas.
Absolutely.
And we only have one instructional designer within the School of Medicine. We do utilize resources from both campuses, TCU and UNT Health Science Center. But there's a team within the School of Medicine that has, we call it academic development, so it's curriculum building. We have an academic technologist that helps train faculty on certain technologies. So there's still a team, even though the role itself is only one instructional designer.
Right.
And so it's embedded within our educational affairs department, where those functions also lay. Obviously, that's where all the curriculum's developed. We have to make sure we're in line with accreditation, that type of thing.
Right.
So that's kind of the gist of the position. Why don't you start off by telling me why you're interested in this role?
Well, first of all, I love instructional design. I got my educational technology degree in my master's. I had a 4.0. But the reason I wanted to do it was back in 2013 when I was finishing up my undergrad in kinesiology. I came in 1980 to East Texas State on a football scholarship. And so I was, all set to be a coach and teach PE. I mean, that was just what I wanted to do back then. Well, I got married, I raised a family, and then came back 28 years later and discovered that life wasn't all about what I had thought originally when I set in. I loved, because I didn't know a whole lot about technology at the time back during when I was married, but I loved helping others with things on the computer, and whether it was building sites. One thing I do with, like even at church or when I wasn't in college, I used to help where my daughter would go to school. I would help those admin or coaches or teachers not only coach, but I'd help them set up their sites. They might want a blog to communicate better with parents or students, or they might want a website that they could showcase all their artifacts. So I helped them build their portfolios with websites like Weebly or Google Sites or Wix. And that was just something that I loved. Well, when I finished my undergrad, I thought I wanted to go into ed. So I went in and talked to the ed department, and I had almost gotten ready to sign up because I just said, well, let me think about this. And I went back in and talked to a lady who was in charge of the ed tech department. And I said, I want something more to do with designing courses and using curriculum to integrate that into my classroom to make learning fun. And she said, we have that. And so that's when I fell in love with instructional design, course development. I know there's a difference between a designer and a developer, but I've learned, all of those methods so that whenever something comes along, I'm ready to help with a self-directed curriculum and flipped classroom. Learning teaching methods, learning how to be user-friendly, how to be, know whether something is properly accessible or not because we're regulated. Uh, you know, all those things are important, and so you need to know how to hold yourself accountable, much less someone you're working with. But one of the things that I have that a lot of uh, applicants probably don't have.
Mhm.
First of all, I'm sorry, I was drinking some coffee.
That's okay.
First of all, I'm probably a little more mature than most of those students. That I have the ability to command a respect that those kids don't have. If you're going to someone who maybe graduated at 25 with their master's in instructional design, or someone like myself who maybe graduated around the same time but has a lot more life experience, I might feel more uh, confident going with the older, more mature person because they probably could reach my level as opposed to, not that the younger person don't have the knowledge, but there's just something about that maturity that a lot of faculty need to build that rapport with unless they are told they only have this option. And so that's one of the benefits that I bring to the table that a lot of applicants may not bring, is that I can command that respect and I can build that rapport a lot easier than a lot of them. And so that really bodes well for my project.
Okay. Tell me more about your experience with instructional design technologies.
Um, well, one of the things that I like to do, I have a lot of things that I would love to tell you. So I'm going to try to make sure that I stay focused on exactly what you want. But first of all, let me describe how I would help faculty design a course. First of all, I would want to know, what are your course objectives? How do we get to where this is what you want your students to learn from this course? Then I would want to show them in Canvas or whatever element, I know you use Canvas, but whatever LMS you're using, you want to have some good tutorial and good tips for them to use. A lot of faculty may not be an expert in media. They may not have any idea about course design because a lot of them have been teaching face-to-face most of their career. So once they understand how important having a second pair of eyes is when they are designing a course, because that helps you identify potential issues that may be on there, whether it's accessibility, whether it's bad links that are not hot anymore, uh, whether the video is outdated. There's so many things that you need to make sure of when you're building a course. Be a good sounding board. Be someone who is encouraging, who knows how to lift that faculty member up, who I wouldn't go in assuming that they don't know anything. I would go in just wanting to find out, okay, where are you at? What do you want to get accomplished? And how is it best for me to help you? I would want to find out from them so that I can best approach how we go about this matter. Give them also, I'd give them a student perspective, because a lot of times they're just thinking with their professor brain and they're not looking at it from a student standpoint. I would definitely want to provide that. I would promote, we're going to make sure this has academic integrity, whether we're using pedagogy, whether it's andragogy, tech tools. But the main thing is to collaborate in such a way that success happens at the end. So also, you make sure it's accessible. You have to make sure that accessibility rating is as close to 100% as you can get, and provide. I would definitely want to give them innovation tools that make a difference in their course. If it's someone who's teaching, an area on the blood flow, I would definitely want to make sure that it has the best curriculum related to the blood flow. What areas of the blood flow do you want? What's your beginning and what's your ending, and what do you want to have accomplished at the end?
Okay.
So that's just a quick thing of how I would do teaching, helping faculty with their course design. Now, do I have any kind of key performance indicators that I look at, when I'm doing something with faculty and staff. I definitely want to make sure that whether I'm using an instructional design strategy, whether it's a web-based resource, because right now students, even doctors, seems like they prefer a medium that's related to media. Back in my day, it was a textbook and it was a pen and paper. Today, everything is happening. We have digital natives. Now, they're not all bright digital natives, but they are in a society that, the digital landscape is vast. And so you have to know these things. And when you use those, they need to be effective tools. Whether, online delivery or a lecture in the classroom that is used on the course in Canvas, it needs to be something that makes a difference when that student takes the time to listen. I mean, they're already taking a lot of time to wanting to be a doctor. So there's going to, there's a certain amount of years that is involved with this situation. So you want to make sure they get their money's worth. Is the return on their investment, from the student perspective, from the faculty perspective, and from the school's perspective, are you making that difference? And then, especially when it comes to adult learning theory, you need to know and have a good understanding of what this is and be able to articulate that. When you're translating to an SME, a subject matter expert, they're already very knowledgeable, but they may not know everything that you know about what you're doing. So you need to be effective in how you share that learning product with that SME or that faculty member. You need to be able to meet deadlines, because when there's any project that you do, someone needs it done by a certain time. So you need to be good at meeting deadlines, and you need to know how to get from A to Z by that time, if not before. I think getting there before is what is most needed today, but make sure you meet that deadline, no matter what it is. And so you have to be able to work flexibly, independently, and you also need to be coachable. And that's something that's very important to me.
All right. So what technologies have you utilized, whether in a work environment, or what instructional design technologies are you familiar with?
Well, I teach E-Tech 424, which is integrating technology into the curriculum. And what I use in there currently, I use just about anything Google. I love the Google platform. I use Adobe Spark, I use Flipgrid, I use Hippo Video. And what I do is I'll take a discussion and I'll have a topic such as online versus face-to-face, or plagiarism, or I'm doing something in the units that I'm teaching this week. It has to do with students finding and IDing sites on the website and making sure that they are safe for them and their students. And so I have them use a crap test, and I have them do an essay based on 3 articles that I have them find, peer-reviewed articles, based on this topic, using the crap test to prove whether or not a website is safe or not, and why. I use Screencastify. I use Blogger as a blog site that I teach my students to design. I also have them use Weebly or Google Sites or Wix to build a portfolio to house all of their artifacts, and I have them put all these in 5 different pages on that website. And so I have them put in an intro, I have it put in a discussions page, a technology integration projects page, a blog page, and an educational philosophy statement page. And I have them utilize all the artifacts that we do as far as assignments go for that unit. And I have them put them all in those specific pages for those assignments. And I mean, I've used Storyboard as a technology. I've used, there's a ton of tools in my tool belt that I've used, and I look forward to learning even more new ones.
Okay. So why are you interested in making the change from your current position?
Because I'm currently, I'm a full-time doc student. I'm finishing up my dissertation currently, getting ready to do my final defense no later than December, and I'll be graduating in May. And I'm ready for a full-time job, and I would love to have it in instructional design. And any aspect of that uh, would make me uh, delirious.
Okay. Great. All right. So that is all the questions that I have. What questions can I answer for you?
Okay, I think you've answered most of them, but let me ask you this: what thing do you like best about your job? Now I know you're the director of HR,
Uh-huh.
but you deal with a lot of different things. I noticed in your LinkedIn that you have a lot of things that you are responsible for.
Yeah, if it's anywhere HR related, it falls in my lap. So I have an interesting role because I liaison between school medicine, human resources at TCU, and somewhat human resources at UNT Health Science Center.
Right.
I was previously at the UNT Health Science Center HR for 15 years, so I knew that side of the house pretty well.
Right.
I've been in this role for about a year and a half now, so still some learning going on. I think so. So my point was I knew of the School of Medicine, the partnership that was going on between the two institutions. And what drew me, and I think it kind of draws everybody when you start doing any research, is how we're trying to develop better doctors.
Right.
It's a different approach to teaching doctors. So we can teach doctors all the basics that they have to know, but it's a step beyond. And then, so seeing that on paper, but then as I started going through the interview process, to hear it, and to see how everybody that is involved with the School of Medicine feels that same passion. I mean, even as staff, even as faculty, that empathy piece and that compassion piece is taught to us and is part of kind of the culture of the School of Medicine.
Right.
So, of course, we're all here for the medical students. That's the whole reason we're here.
Absolutely.
Whether we interact with them or not. And so it became just this interesting concept of doing medicine differently and being a part of something from the ground up. If you like to be a part of startup operations and you're okay with that unknown and that flexibility, then, this is the type of position any of our positions are, because as I said, you've got to be of that mindset that not everything's laid out for you. Right. And so it was just intriguing in that sense. And so as it continues, a year and a half later, of course, the last 6 or 7 months have been remote for us, which has been a different challenge. But we still, have managed to stay on top of everything, make sure our students are getting the education that they need, make sure we're all staying connected into the different pieces, continue to recruit faculty, all the things that we've still been able to do. You're proud about it.
Absolutely.
That's the best way I can explain it, is I'm proud to be a part of this group, and with the two institutions, and kind of having that connection of both worlds in Fort Worth is really great.
Well, you can't, there's nothing wrong with TCU and UNT sports. Not to mention, the School of Medicine. But you would have all the gamut covered for, sports. TCU football, UNT football. Hey, I would be in hog heaven just for that.
TCU football is way better than UNT football, though. Well, I went to UNT. That's where I got my undergrad and grad, and of course TCU is in my family. My dad's a TCU alum, so I much prefer watching TCU football.
Right, absolutely. Well, we like to watch people who win.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure I only went to a handful of games the entire time I was at UNT.
Right.
Anyways, but yeah, obviously, something about Fort Worth, too, and just the home, being behind the home team, and the home team being TCU, because UNT's big campus is in Denton, which is far enough away.
Right.
That the Health Science Center, is just an arm of the whole UNT system, so Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, let me ask you this. What's the most important quality that you are looking for in a candidate for this position?
I said it from the get-go, flexibility is huge. The thing that I've seen in the positions that I've filled since I've started, and even some that were filled before I started, is a lot of people aren't comfortable with the unknown or with things not being completely laid out and, in writing or a policy or whatever it may be.
Right.
So that flexibility piece is huge. Obviously, when the pandemic hit, we had to do everybody did, but we had to do a huge flip and change some things around, make sure, our students were still going to get the necessary medical training that they needed. And so that caused everybody to kind of switch their thinking in the way that they were doing things. But there have been plenty of other times that we've had to do that. We're still working towards accreditation. We've received preliminary accreditation. We're working on provisional accreditation right now, and ultimately full accreditation, which will be after our first class graduates. So everything we do is also guided by those accreditation principles. And as they come in and give us feedback, then we're having to change and alter. So that one, I would say for every single position in the School of Medicine is flexibility, adaptability, but then also just an innovative mind and spirit, because we are trying to do things differently, and it is an environment where creativity is welcomed.
Right.
And so, coming to the table and feeling empowered to present new ideas if they make sense.
Right.
And not all ideas may come to fruition, but just having that collaborative, creative, innovative environment and being comfortable in that.
Right. Well, very good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
Now,
any other burning questions at the moment?
well, I think I'm kind of excited about this position, and I've truly enjoyed hearing from you today as well.
Sure.
So can I ask, if it's not too bold, what are the next steps in the hiring process? Do you have?
Absolutely, that would have been my next thing anyway. So, we have had this position posted for a little bit. We hit some bumps and some hiccups because of the pandemic. So we are just this is the first step. I'm conducting phone screens this week.
Okay.
The plan will be for me to finish those up this week, and then we'll meet as a search committee and determine who are the best candidates to move forward for a second round interview.
Okay, perfect.
That'll be a video interview. It'll be a Zoom interview.
Right.
It will be much more into the weeds about the position, interacting with individuals that interact with this role regularly. It's much more detailed. This was just kind of high level.
Right.
So our hope is to make those decisions within the next couple of weeks.
Perfect.
And then from there, we're going to move as fast as we can.
Sure. Okay.
It's hard to say just because there's a lot, even on both sides, there's a lot of bureaucracy that happens. I don't think I mentioned at the beginning, this is a UNT Health Science Center position, so we actually employ people from both institutions as well.
Okay.
Or with both institutions. So this is a Health Science Center position, so if you start to go looking for benefits information or anything like that, be sure you're looking on the UNT side.
Okay, I sure will.
So that's our plan. I would say certainly if you have any other questions or if you just haven't heard anything and want to check in, feel free to email me.
Well,
I'll be happy to give you kind of an update of where we are. We will, we'll reach out to you one way or another. You'll hear from us. We won't leave you out there hanging.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, based on what you heard from me today, is there anything that I didn't explain well enough that you would like to hear, or is there?
No, I don't think so. Again, this was just very high level, collecting some basic information, and then from there the team will dig in and ask a lot more of the harder questions.
Okay, perfect. Well, I just want to thank you for this honor to have this phone interview with you today.
Absolutely.
And I do look forward to hearing back from you after you make your decision.
All right, we will be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Meagan. Have a great day.
Have a great, you too. Bye.
Bye. Well, what do you think, brother? Not too bad?
No, this time you did good.
Thank you.
You go through